missing the rear wheel of a motorcyclist who'd jumped the light. Andreas turned his head and stared at Kouros. He knew there must be a grin breaking out somewhere on the other side of that face. Andreas was a dozen years older than Kouros, but except for the few tinges of gray streaking Andreas's slightly too long dark hair, you'd think they were the same age, perhaps because Kouros's boot camp-style haircut and compact bull-like build made him look older than he was, or because Andreas's hard work at keeping his 6'2" athletic frame in shape paid off. Kouros weaved through a series of far-from-fancy back streets running roughly parallel to Piraeus. Just before Homonia, he turned left and cut back across the road. It's only a couple of blocks from here. Andreas watched a hooker lean out from a doorway marked by a single white light above it, the local sign for hookers here. Great neighborhood. Yeah, probably another drug deal gone bad. Don't know yet, but something tied to drugs would be my guess. Dawn on a Sunday morning. This neighborhood. A foreign-looking young male in a dumpster, no money, no ID, no witnesses, no one with him, and no one looking for him. At least not so far. Andreas shrugged. We'll see. 2 minutes later, Kouros pulled up to a uniformed officer leaning against the hood of a marked blue and white Athens police car. It blocked anyone from going down a narrow alley-sized street just south of where St. Constantino Avenue ran into Karaiskaki Square. It's Chief Inspector Andreas Kaldis, Special Crimes Division, Athens headquarters, said Kouros. Even a year and a half after his promotion, Andreas still marveled that he was the guy with that fancy title. It posed no such problem for Kouros. He'd only known Andreas as chief. First as newly appointed chief of police for the Aegean island of Mykonos, and 6 months later by his current title, dating from when Andreas returned to Athens, bringing Kouros with him, to assume command of the same unit he'd been forced to leave for doing too good a job at catching politically connected bad guys. But Andreas's political allies proved to be a hell of a lot tougher than theirs, something Andreas reminded them of every chance he got. They drove the 100 yards or so to where the cops said to go. There were no yards or open spaces along the way, only the back doors of buildings lining both sides. The buildings to the right fronted on a main street running back into Karaiskaki Square and were commercial. The ones to the left were a mix of smaller businesses and apartment buildings facing onto a side street. Everything was run down, typical for this neighborhood. Kouros stopped at a 30-foot wide break on the left, an open lot that went through to the side street, or would have, but for a row of weather-beaten plywood fencing it off at the edge of the street. Some of it had been kicked in, probably by junkies and street hooker trade looking for a place to do their business. An ambulance from the coroner's office and 2 marked cars from the St. Constantino police precinct were parked ahead of them on the other side of the break. This part of town fell under their jurisdiction, until now. Andreas's unit was in charge of all murder investigations, and any other crimes he considered serious enough to warrant special attention. It was a unique position in a politically sensitive department, one that many envied, but far more feared. He was not someone to fuck with. "So, what do we have, Manos?" he said to the man in plain clothes, hurrying toward him. "Morning, sir. A white male, late teens, early 20s, about 6 feet, 160 pounds. Dead about 5 hours. Appears to be strangled." "Did anyone touch the body?" A man from the coroner's office standing next to a forensic technician gestured no with his head. "We were waiting for you, Chief." Manos hesitated. "Did anyone touch the body?" Andreas said in a slightly sharper tone, looking straight at Manos. "Yes, sir. The officer who responded to the call was a rookie, and is he here?" "Yes. Call him over." Andreas knew from the initial report of no wallet or ID that someone must have touched the body, but there was a point to be made to the rookie and his supervisor. The young cop looked almost as white as the corpse. No doubt he was wondering to what worse precinct he possibly could be banished for this screw-up. Andreas leveled his steel-gray eyes on him. "You were the first one on the scene?" "Yes, sir," he answered nervously. "What did you see?" "A body in that dumpster."